And now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance.
Hey, Charles. A very good morning to you.
It is a very good morning indeed. And according to Yolanda, the day breaks so fast these days.
Yeah. Yes. You sound very bright today compared to the other day.
Maybe around 5 a.m. we start seeing daylight. Imagine.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and good morning to you, Yolanda.
Good morning. How are you today? It's good to see you.
I am fantastic.
I can see that.
Yeah, good to see you too. In very high spirits. So.
Yes, the week is almost over, so
I know. I'm so looking forward.
Yeah.
Okay, today we have a new guest to review the papers with us, Mr. Ben Shamang. He is Director of News, or former Director of News, Voice of Nigeria. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day.
Thank you very much.
In this day, we have this morning, Shetima in Mokwa promises FG will rebuild flood-ravaged community. Let's pair that story on leadership on this day front page with Leadership newspaper. In Leadership, the header goes, FG donates 2 billion naira, 20 trucks of rice to Mokwa flood victims. The government promised to commit to sustainable disaster management policies. Hopefully, this is not political comment or political talk. And Shetima also said that while the federal government will play its part, all arms and levels of government have their roles to play as well, which is true. So all eyes on Mokwa now due to the scale of destruction following the floods that occurred there. Mr. Ben, what's your response to this visit by the Vice President and the promises he has made?
Well, it is apt that he went. It is right that he goes because it shows the government is responsive to what is happening. But the worry there is, yes, when you said 20 trucks of assorted grains being taken there, I hope that 20 trucks are actually filled up, not just going there. And when you also said that construction work will start immediately, one will be wondering, immediately where? Will you have to relocate them, or you leave them to that at that very same flood-prone area? So a whole lot of things will have to be done. You have to get the structural engineers, you have to get some architects, and of course you have to also know who really is affected. Because I do know that it once happened in some areas in southern Kaduna where some people killed and burned. So there was this relief sent. You could see that fake names were also brought in. So how has the government taken care of that? And for the people in Nigeria too, we should also learn to take to instructions. When NEMET gives its own findings and they give the predictions, we should not just take them for granted. They are real, they are scientific. When they say there's going to be rainfall, there's going to be rainfall. So we also have to begin to look at how to move from lower land to higher land so that we can save our lives, not just this reacting to terrible situations. Then one will also begin to blame some authorities. Who are the people in charge of physical development? Were there no signs that some people were going to areas that ordinarily they shouldn't be? So if some people allow that to happen, so what is happening to them, or what ought to be done to them? The law must be brought to bear here so that some people are sanctioned, so that again it serves as deterrent.
All right, a lot to do right there. I'm sure that the federal government will have to work with the state government in order to clean out the mess going on there. Let's move on to Daily Sun newspaper. DSS seeks court order to bar Utomi associates from holding rallies. The Department of State Services accused Professor Pat Utomi of attempting to illegally use up the executive powers of President Bola Tinubu. Security agencies say if not restrained, Utomi's proposed rallies, roadshows, and actions constitute serious threat to public order, safety, and national unity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Perhaps the government is getting overworked with this. In a normal setting, we know that a shadow government is an opposition group in a parliamentary system that mimics the structure of the actual government, in particular its cabinet. They scrutinize and closely examine the work of the government and individual ministers. Ben, what's your sense of how this will play out in terms of Utomi's intentions and the government's reactions?
I think that the DSS is too preemptive in their actions. So why is it that you want to stop a thing that has not started? And again, they will say they have to take proactive action so that it does not happen. But when they describe this as a shadow government is really like the shadow of a human being, or like the man standing in front of his mirror. Whatever you're wearing is what the shadow is telling you.
Yes.
So when you begin to say there's going to be a shadow government, it's going to mimic what you're going to have. It does not mean that they're coming to overthrow a government. Theirs is to tell, it's a kind of a subtle opposition to tell government, in terms of security, this is what you ought to do. And they're going to have a kind of a cabinet. This cabinet does not follow that. They're going to have a meeting in a place and therefore assign rules and have alternative kind of a government. So when the DSS is saying that it's a kind of trying to, Utomi and his group is a kind of trying to unseat the government, or trying to unseat the government, or make the place ungovernable. I think it's within the democratic confines, the democratic rights, human rights, to a kind of show government to protest. Protest does not necessarily mean arson or orgy, destructions here and there. Just express your opinions. And these opinions are going to be, like I said, you have Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Education, Minister of Health, and they begin to advise government on the alternatives to follow, because if they look at it and say, in terms of security, you've not been able to deliver in Benue, in Kaduna, in Plateau, Zamfara, and Co. So what's the alternative? You listen carefully and probably you tend to gain a word or two or a path to follow towards a better governance.
Right, Charles, I thought you had something to say in the newsroom, but very briefly.
I mean, you are chasing a shadow. That's the one of Nigeria's foremost intelligence services. What kind of intelligence do they have at their disposal concerning a shadow government? You can't chase a shadow. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't capture a shadow because it has no substance, and that's what the idea is all about. And this action they are taking actually smacks of the feeling of insecurity in this government. So you feel insecure about somebody's, I mean, it has not even started yet, and then you're running helter-skelter. Meanwhile, we have more substantial and intractable challenges to deal with. So it's as if they're trying to take the attention away from the real security threats, focusing on what does not exist yet. You're trying to nip something in the bud that hasn't started yet. Meanwhile, the other security threats, the palpable ones we are dealing with, would even spark others. No one is talking about taking the leaders of the marauding herdsmen to court. No one is talking about prosecuting the leaders of Boko Haram. No. It is political, a political shadow that the nation's foremost intelligence service is running after. For me, it does not inspire confidence in me at all. It's like creating a storm out of a teacup, which is absolutely unnecessary.
All right. Punch newspaper this morning. VIPs lobby presidency as FG grounds 60 private jets. Custom seals of aircraft hangars at Lagos, Abuja airports over import due to default. These jets are owned by bank chiefs, multinational oil companies, and individuals. It's reported that duties are not being paid on the majority of private jets currently running in the country. They've been asked to proceed on verification exercise to determine the faulters. Yolanda, on the face of it, this seems like customs service is performing a routine duty, especially when everyone is adept at cheating the Nigerian state. Pay your duties. I mean, the private jet venture or business or ownership is a very expensive venture. So if you have to import, buy or lease and maintain them in the country, then why not pay the duties that are due to the federal government?
I think you've said it right. You've pretty much said it all. But then you stopped at an important juncture. You said on the face of it, which makes, one wonder, is there more to this story? Is there more reason to why this has been done? 60 is an incredibly large number. Just one of those jets runs into so much money. And one wonders if there's more to this than that meets the eye. The public perception probably would be that this is a good thing, the rich should be affected as well. Everybody should be able to face the repercussions of what's happening with the economy, but I'm sure with time, more will unfold with the story.
Right, the Guardian newspaper, defection rumors swirl as Adeleke Fubara meet Tinubu in Lagos. Osun APC, PDP trade accusations over governor's political legacy, or loyalty rather. Rivers governor's camp silent as Wike's allies watch anxiously. Governor Ademola Adeleke's visit comes at a time when the federal government withheld government allocations to Osun for February, March, and April 2025. We heard that Adeleke may be seeking assurances from President Tinubu that he will not face federal interference in this re-election bid in exchange for supporting the president's re-election in 2027. Now, that will not be surprising at all. The stakes are very high, both for Fubara and Adeleke. Fubara because he's trying to get back into office, not to be disgraced completely, so he's there in Lagos trying to smooth his way. And then for Adeleke, most governors want a second term anyway, so it will not be surprising to see that he's probably trying to negotiate something. Ben, what do you think about the story?
This is the kind of quid pro quo people talk about. The left hand must wash the right hand so that they remain in the same plate. What am I trying to say? When former governor of Edo State, Adams Oshimole, said, cross over to PDP and your sins will be, to APC and your sins will be forgiven. So we are seeing some massive movements here and there. So Adeleke might want to say, okay, if I do this, okay, let the president win my state, but let me remain the governor. So that is one way. Then Fubara, as we know, I don't know whether I should describe him as a drowning man politically, but again, he needs some solid grounds to stay. And in getting that solid ground, you could see his meeting with the president, and in the midst of the gale of a kind of massive crossing here and there. So I think they want to stay afloat, they want to be relevant, and in trying to be relevant, one way is, President, I assure you, you have my state as the president, but let me remain as governor. But again, I can see that PDP is also replying that, look, it's all going to be about performance. The electorate will simply pass a verdict on the presidency, not a kind of snatching governors and cabinets, so to speak. So that is left to be seen. But
yeah, definitely. That's left to be seen. Easier said than done. New Telegraph this morning, CBN survey highlights energy cost as key inflation driver. 9 in 10 businesses point to petrol, diesel, and electricity expenses as the culprits behind relentless price pressures. The survey highlights a growing disconnect between monetary interventions and ground-level realities. And all this points to a sobering picture of a nation grappling with deep-rooted structured bottlenecks. This report essentially lays bare everything, because what we're saying is that while the government maintains a hawkish stance with regard to monetary policy, non-monetary inflation triggers are upending the local economy. Responses, please, from anyone. Yeah.
Well, from what I am seeing, most of the facts, most of the figures actually bandied about by government concerning the state of the economy hardly ever translate into real life situations. But the issue of business being hampered by energy, I think that's a very valid point. But it starts with the fact that we do not have enough electricity to power our industries. Power has been the bane of Nigeria's industrialization. We just don't have enough of it. So even the ones that are operating always have to fall back on petrol and diesel to run their industries, because public power supply does not just have enough to service them. So most unfortunately, they have to attract additional costs. So you're paying for electricity, which is not enough. Then you now have to augment that with, petrol and diesel to run your companies,
right,
thereby attracting more expenses. And then products and services now become more expensive because, you have to meet your overheads. So unfortunately, energy is the bane of industrialization and development in Nigeria. And someone did say, when you fix power, you fix the country. Okay,
let's quickly look at a Vanguard newspaper. Similar headline to others: Mokwa flood victims lament poor food, camp conditions. A lot of them are in camps right now, so it's a difficult situation over there. On to Daily Independent. Defection won't decide 2027 election outcome, says the PDP. FG to rebuild Mokwa. Again, we've seen that. We've also seen DSS ask court to stop Utomi from holding shadow rallies. And then there's Daily Times of Nigeria. Fitch downgrades Afrexim Bank as Orama's legacy is questioned. Saraki to party faithful, PDP will bounce back in 2027. Then onto the international headlines. Daily Graphic: government won't interfere with corruption cases, according to the president. That's President John Mahama promising to preserve the independence of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Agency, which is crucial for its success. The Citizen newspaper: hospitals not safe from thugs, from robberies at gunpoint to rapes while on duty, and even a nurse shot dead in a hospital corridor. Criminals show little respect for SAs, medics, and patients. Serious crimes in South Africa then. Also, how counterfeit booze floods SA. Illicit alcohol trade is up by 55%, costing South Africa billions in tax revenue, yes. But Yolanda, I'm even more concerned about the health implications for ordinary people of this knockoff liquor without knowing it. You buy them from stores, and they could actually be a medical problem for people. Any thoughts on these two stories?
Yes. Unfortunately, this is a problem that is also faced in Nigeria.
Yes.
And it's a very dangerous thing, sincerely. Speaking from experience, I've had an incident where I had a knockoff brand and I was terribly ill for weeks, and I couldn't understand what the problem was. And recovering from that, from such a small amount, was really, it took so much out of me in terms of time, in terms of expenses. And so I can't imagine how that is for maybe more, a wider range of people. And as well, talking about the hospitals, because that's almost in line with the medicals, it's really quite sad that the level of crime and insecurity in South Africa is such, it's a high stage. But not only that, the fact that thugs are now hitting hospitals, that's very scary.
Yeah.
And at gunpoint, and such violence to rape nurses, to shoot them. It's a crazy thing. This is such an overwhelming headline for me that it's really difficult to say it and just remove yourself from the emotional aspect of this, because this is very vile, both what has been happening in the hospitals and the fact that these illicit counterfeit booze floods are not only in Nigeria but other parts of the continent as well. It's really a shame.
All right, we're back to Trump. Trump signs proclamation to ban travel from 12 countries. That's a breaking news this morning. The ban restricts nationals of Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen from entering the U.S. People from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela will experience partial restriction. The White House says the president is fulfilling his promise to protect Americans from dangerous foreigners, and this common sense restrictions include places that lack proper vetting, exhibit high visa overstay rates, and fail to share identity and threat information. Everything is also subject to review, they have said. But there you have it. Trump promised to do this during his campaign, and he's proceeding without, proceeding with it without fail. Anyone can jump in here.
It's very discriminatory, I think. I mean, the idea is right in certain aspects, but the execution of it is quite poor. We've spoken so many times about how Trump's diplomatic speak is not quite refined. As a president, there's a certain way you are expected to present yourself to the world. And if you come out rightly, Charles, earlier on when we took the report, I think Trump said something like, we need them out, we don't want them. It's such a brash way to be as a president.
Most of those countries are experiencing a political instability, and that's why you're having, an outflux of, immigrants trying to find safe havens. But then he did tie it to the anti-Semitic riot in Boulder, Colorado, saying that it is countries like these that actually create such situations.
Oh, okay, I mean, there are also security issues. But quickly, Financial Times, also on Trump's big, beautiful bill, will swell U.S. debt by $2.4 trillion, once watchdog. And then to the Times newspaper, Putin has revenge on his mind, says Trump, after 75-minute call. Both of them spoke. We'll have to leave it there. Mr. Ben Sherman, former Director News of Voice of Nigeria, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much, Dr. Constance, for driving today's newspaper review. So that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Rise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.